If you have ever been the person who sets aside $5 a day every day, and then you open your app after almost a year and see dividend income of roughly $10, breathe. Nothing is wrong with you, and nothing is broken in your plan. Early compounding is quiet by design. It hides underground, and then the moment your portfolio crosses $100,000, the math flips. Dividends stop whispering and start acting like a second paycheck, a mechanical contributor that keeps buying more shares for you every single month. If you want practical, testable roadmaps without the hype, tap like, subscribe to Dave's Dividend Lab, ring the bell, and drop a comment right now with your target income. Maybe $300 per month, maybe $500 per month, and the exact time frame you are aiming for. I read the comments and model the most requested inputs in our next lab notes. This video is educational only and not financial advice. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Taxes and costs vary by person and jurisdiction. My goal here is clarity, visible inputs, realistic assumptions, and scenarios you can verify on your own. Let's start with the feeling, because that feeling is what makes people quit just before the magic shows up. John invests $5 per day. Across 12 months, that is approximately $1,825. His dividend income after that first stretch might be $10, $20, maybe $40 if he holds a slightly higher yield mix. That is a snack. It is not life-changing, and it is not meant to be. The first stage of dividend investing is what I call the invisible years. You plant seeds, you water dirt, nothing appears to happen, but underneath, roots form. With a dividend reinvestment plan on, every tiny payment buys a fraction of a share. Those fractions, in turn, begin generating their own tiny payments. The snowball is real, but for a long time, it is the size of a golf ball rolling in fresh powder. Technically moving, not yet impressive. So why do we talk about $100,000 like it is a tipping point? Because even a modest starting yield, call it 4%, on $100,000 is about $4,000 per year, roughly $330 per month. That is when dividends stop being background noise and start buying a meaningful number of new shares every 30 days. You keep your habit of $5 per day, but now your portfolio is a teammate. This is the shift from grind to glide. The time it takes to go from $0 to $100,000 will almost always be longer than the time it takes to go from $100,000 to $200,000, because the dividends begin to pull you forward. I'm going to show you exactly how we model this at Dave's Dividend Lab. First, our inputs transparent on screen so you can audit them later. Contribution, $5 per day, which is about $150 per month, about $1,825 per year. DRIP, on. Taxes. We assume long-term, mostly qualified dividends inside a tax-advantaged account where possible. Talk with a qualified professional for your specifics. Portfolio style, a 5-slice mix, equal weight at the start, with light annual rebalancing. Guardrails. No single position above 20%, no single sector above 35%. Avoid chasing yield for the sake of yield, and prefer durable free cash flow and sane payout ratios. Now, a simple 5-slice educational mix to illustrate the idea. Not a recommendation, just a structure you can copy and modify. One slice is a quality dividend exchange-traded fund as the anchor. Think broad, rules-driven large and mid-cap exposure, with an emphasis on quality and shareholder distributions. 2 slices are stalwart dividend growers. Think resilient cash flows in essential categories like healthcare and essential retail, where pricing power and scale matter. 2 slices are growth-oriented dividend payers, companies that may start with lower yields, but have the capacity to raise distributions and compound earnings at healthy rates. The anchor delivers dependable cash flow. The stalwarts add resilience. The growers bend the curve upward through dividend growth and price appreciation. Before you post, update the live yields and expected growth rates, because markets move. For planning purposes, a blended current yield in the low 2s is a conservative base. A long-run dividend growth rate in the low to mid-teens is optimistic, but not unheard of for a curated mix. And a price appreciation assumption in the high single digits is a prudent planning anchor. The point is not to guess the future. The point is to show sensitivity. Which brings us to the heart of the lab. Scenarios you can verify. We always run 3: low, base, and high. The low case keeps you patient and honest. The base case reflects a realistic lane. The high case shows you what a tailwind might do if several variables cooperate. In the low case, assume a current yield around 2%, a dividend growth rate around 8%, and price appreciation around 5%. Keep the $5 per day and the dividend reinvestment plan on. In this lane, after about 10 years, your portfolio could land in the mid-30,000s. That is not fireworks, but it is real. Around 15 years, you might flirt with the $100,000 mark, perhaps arriving shortly after, depending on the exact path of returns. Around 20 years, you could be somewhere in the low 200s of thousands. Around 30 years, you are likely sitting on several hundreds of thousands with a monthly income that, while not flashy, has become very real and very helpful. The message of the low lane is simple. Time plus consistency still wins, just later. In the base case, assume a current yield around 2 2/10 to 2 6/10%, a dividend growth rate in the low teens, say 11% to 13% over the long run, and a price appreciation rate around 8% to 10%. With $5 per day and reinvestment on, the checkpoints look very different. Around 10 years, you are roughly in the low 40s of thousands. Around 15, you are near $100,000, that inflection point where dividends begin to feel like a second contributor. Around 20 years, think roughly $250,000. Around 30 years, you could be nearing $1,500,000, and the annual dividend income could cluster around the high 60,000s, which is in the neighborhood of $5,745 per month. It is at this stage that the curve visibly bends, and your deposits feel small relative to what the portfolio itself is adding. In the high case, be careful with expectations, but explore the sensitivity. Assume a current yield around 3%, a dividend growth rate around 15%, and price appreciation around 11% to 12%. Same $5 per day. Here, the 10-year mark can push into the high 40s to low 50s of thousands. 15 years clears 100,000 with margin. 20 years may pass 300,000. 30 years pushes well north of 1.5 million with even higher monthly income potential. The high lane is not a promise. It is a stress test that says, if growth is stronger and yields hold, what happens? If this is useful so far, hit like so more honest math reaches more investors. Subscribe for weekly roadmaps and tell me in the comments 2 things: your monthly income goal and which scenario, low, base or high, you want me to run using your exact inputs in the next lab notes. Include your assumed starting yield, your dividend growth estimate, and your timeline. I will pick a few and publish the sheets so everyone can audit the math. Let's talk psychology for a minute, because money is math plus behavior. There are 3 stretches you will walk. The first stretch is $0 to $100,000. That is the grind. Most of the lift is you, those small daily deposits, and the discipline to leave the plan alone. The second stretch is $100,000 to $200,000. That is a stride. Dividends now add meaningful fuel each month, and the second $100,000 arrives faster than the first because you are no longer lifting alone. The third stretch is $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. That is the glide path. Reinvested dividends and price appreciation can add hundreds of thousands over multi-year windows without heroic deposits. The critical shift is mental. After $100,000, your dividends can add more in some years than your total contributions. That is the moment people describe as money working for you. But you only reach that stage by surviving years 2 through 7. Those quiet, invisible years when nothing appears to happen and everything important is happening underground. Guardrails protect your future self. Choose quality first, reasonable payout ratios, healthy balance sheets, recurring free cash flow. Cap a single position at 20% and a single sector at 35%, so a single surprise cannot derail you. Rebalance once per year with tax awareness. If a holding becomes overweight and richly valued, consider pausing dividend reinvestment on that one name and directing new cash to underweights until your allocation normalizes. Do not chase yield. Chasing yield is how people turn a patient plan into a repair job. We want growing income more than maximum current income because growth compounds and protects purchasing power over time. Document everything. In our description, we always link the exact sheet used in each episode so you can copy it, change the inputs, and test the sensitivity for your own numbers. Let's revisit the $5 per day habit with a timeline so you can see how the snowball builds. After 1 year, you have contributed about $1,825. Dividends are still tiny, crumbs really, and that is okay. After 10 years with reinvestment, the portfolio can cross $40,000 in the base lane, more or less depending on market paths. After 15 years, you are near that $100,000 milestone, the point where the math flips and monthly payouts begin to feel like a second contributor. After 20 years, around $250,000 is realistic in the base lane. After 30 years, the base lane estimate sits in the neighborhood of $1,500,000 with annual dividends in the high 60,000s. Notice the shape of the curve. Flat at first, then curving, then rising almost vertically. Notice the composition of the final number. Only a small slice came directly from your pocket, a larger slice came from reinvested dividends, and the largest slice came from price appreciation, powered by earnings growth and multiple behavior over time. That is why we stress patience, quality, and rules. I want to give you a simple weekly checklist, the frictionless way to make this real. On day 1, pick a broker, enable automatic dividend reinvestment, and set an auto transfer equal to $5 per day, or a weekly equivalent that fits your payroll cycle. On day 2, choose your 5-slice allocation and start at equal weight. On day 3, write down your monthly income goal and the reason it matters to you in 1 sentence. On day 4, build a 1-page checklist. Did the deposit hit? Is reinvestment on? Is anything overweight? Is anything underweight? Do I need to direct new cash differently this month? On day 5, learn the dividend calendar for your holdings so you know when cash arrives and reinvests. On day 6, block a 30-minute monthly review on your calendar so you actually look at the plan and do not fidget with it daily. On day 7, post your inputs in the comments, starting yield, growth estimate, and timeline, so I can model a few of your real scenarios in the next lab notes and feature them on screen. Now, a quick word about taxes and accounts, because net outcomes matter more than gross numbers. In many cases, dividends in tax-advantaged accounts enjoy friendlier treatment than in fully taxable accounts, and in the United States, many equity dividends are qualified, which can be taxed at preferential long-term rates if holding periods are met. None of this is advice. The point is that your after-tax outcome is the real outcome, so ask a professional and structure your contributions intentionally. Also, costs matter. Prefer low internal expenses where possible, be mindful of transaction fees, and keep frictions low so compounding does not leak out of your plan. If you are worried about picking individual names, keep the anchor strong. A quality dividend exchange-traded fund can do a ton of lifting for you with rules you can read and a methodology you can understand. You can pair 1 or 2 ETFs with 1 or 2 durable individual dividend growers and still keep the 5-slice shape. If you are excited about a higher yield product, pause and ask 2 questions. Is the payout supported by cash flow? And what is the track record through stress periods? If you cannot answer those in 1 minute with written evidence, move on. At Dave's Dividend Lab, we are building incomes that we can live with for decades, not just yields that look good this quarter. One more mindset upgrade before we close. Think in milestones you can measure. $25,000 is the first time your payouts feel noticeable. $50,000 is where monthly payouts begin to buy meaningful fractions without your help. $100,000 is the honest tipping point where dividends become a co-worker. $200,000 is where you realize the second 100 arrived much faster than the first. $500,000 is where your payouts can rival major monthly bills. $1 million is the place where your past self thanks your present self for staying in the game through the quiet years. If you want, tell me in the comments which milestone you are aiming at and by when, and I will add a progress tracker to the next Lab Notes episode so we can celebrate together when you hit it. I am closing with a practical promise. In our description, I am linking a simple sheet. It is the exact sheet I used to produce the base, low and high lanes for this video. You can copy it, change the starting yield, change the dividend growth rate, nudge the price appreciation assumption, and see for yourself how sensitive the timeline is. The sheet is your flashlight in the tunnel. It keeps you honest when markets sprint and when markets sulk. If you are here for real testable strategies without the noise, like this video so the algorithm shows it to more people who need it. Subscribe to Dave's Dividend Lab for weekly roadmaps. Ring the bell so you never miss a check-in, and comment your monthly income goal along with the scenario you want me to model next, low, base or high. Tell me your starting yield assumption, your dividend growth estimate, and your target timeline. I will pick a few, run them in the lab, and feature the results on screen so you can verify the math and copy the plan that fits your life. You made it to the end, which tells me you have the one trait compounding respects: patience. Survive the invisible years long enough to watch the curve bend. And if you want to see the pair of dividend ETFs in a 50-50 split that outpaced the broad market over a long stretch, the next video is on your screen. I will see you there.